You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Start in about 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin.
Welcome to the Village Workshop for November 30th, 2022. So let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under recognition, announcements, and special events, I'm in receipt of a letter from Mark Lopez, lives over on Ingolf Street, or his family does. He called me and we had a discussion. He would like to have a sign put up on the road like we've done in several places recognizing people. He says, my father, Vincent Lopez, currently owns a private road, Ingall Street in Wappingers. He and his 4 brothers, all veterans and lifelong residents of the village, have lived on the street or one of the adjacent streets, and I would like to rename or commemorate it in such, perhaps with the Lopez Way sign above the one that's there now on Ingall Street. I mentioned to him that we have done this in the past, and by the way, Vinny Lopez was promoted while he was here as a court officer to major, which is the highest level you can get as a court officer. So I have done these, I've orchestrated these in the past, I have ordered the signs, and I've arranged for ceremonies in several of them so that family and residents could be available when they do the street naming, and it's up for vote.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye.
Carried. Great, it'll make the family very happy this time of the year, too. Okay, roll call. Mayor Sereno.
Present?
Trustee Sadati. Absent. Trustee Tilisak.
Here.
Trustee Nesnick.
Here.
Trustee Huber.
Present.
Trustee Ruffin. Absent.
It'll be a little late.
Trustee Lauricella.
Here.
Village Attorney Wallace.
Here.
Can I have an a vote to approve to pay the bills as per warrant?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor
Opposed?
votes aye.
Carried. Regular session, we are going to get there's a couple presentations tonight. The first one is an overview of the biochar program that has been worked on, I guess, for more than 6 months.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rahul Verma. I'm an engineer with Astro Associates that we started this biochar pilot program for the village several months ago, and it concluded back in September. I'm just here to present to you the results. The final report was issued to you, to Lori, and forwarded to you, I believe at the end of September, if I remember correctly. So just a background for everyone. This started as a village project under the LWRP, Local Waterfront Revitalization Program grant. It was grant money that was used with a matching portion from the village. The village selected my firm, Astro Associates, to complete this biochar pilot program that had been started by the previous mayor and continued through. And so what we did, I had prepared a work plan that was given to the board several months ago that outlined the work that was to be done. The board selected a contractor, Princeton Hydro out of New Jersey, a well-known lake management contractor, to complete the biochar installation. So the biochar was installed. So I'm going to start here at this first location, Wappinger Lake. Biochar was installed in a small 1-acre area here, more near the park, as part of this pilot program. It was an area that's out of the way, kind of has its own flow pattern there, has a culvert leading into it from there, and doesn't get a lot of flow coming in from a lot of other areas. So we installed a number of biochar socks. There were 15 locations. These were installed with weight on the bottom, number of socks, 2 to 3 socks attached on a vertical with a float at the top there. And a spacing of about 70-ish feet apart, give or take, depending on conditions. Left in place for a period of about 90 days. We took samples. Submitted them for analysis for nutrients, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus, along with E. coli as part of that program. But really the nitrogen and phosphorus is what we were concerned about, along with the village, to manage nutrients and hopefully control some of that vegetation. So there was a check dam type installation, which is essentially, it's very small in this photograph, but it's a string of socks installed across that outlet from the culvert that comes in from the park. that culvert drains a fairly large area, about 300 acres, drains into that culvert from up through the village and out into the town. And then we had a number of suspended socks placed here that we could sample. And so essentially what happened here is you have a number of charts here. So here in Wappinger Lake, what we have is at the inflow, which is coming in from that culvert, you can see in the blue line the phosphorus concentrations over that several month period. And then that green line shows what was happening at what we call the outlet of this work area, which was essentially the end of the dock that we were sampling from, right? That was the back end of where this system was installed. And so you can see there was a noticeable decrease in phosphorus through that small area. Seems like the biochar worked well. The water in this area was a little bit more stagnant. The primary flow path through Wappinger Lake is here underneath that Route 9, and then eventually coming out to the dam and to the penstock for the hydro plant. So we were well out of there. So it seemed to have worked well in that sense. You have to remember that this was a very hot, very dry summer, so the flow regime was a little bit different than what you would probably typically get through the lake at that time. Through visual observations, we did see a noticeable decrease in both duckweed and algae. Water chestnut was a different issue. Their water chestnut grows differently. So what we saw was with the decrease in phosphorus and nutrients in the water itself, those two plant species also did not have as much food there, so they didn't grow as well. Duckweed being a different animal, that roots in the sediment below and then grows up and creates a mat. We didn't have, at no time was nutrient removal from the sediment part of this project, so therefore you still have a lot of duckweed that needed to be mechanically removed, and we can discuss more of that later. So, and then similar here, you see the nitrate concentrations. That's another water quality parameter, another nutrient for vegetation. Also did drop off, seemingly a lot more remarkably. You have to keep in mind the scales that we're talking about in the concentrations. The phosphorus is a much more broadly needed nutrient for this aquatic vegetation to grow than nitrate is. So that is the one location. Second location was out at Greens Pond, across from the airport. So here we had originally wanted to put this biochar check dam configuration across the inlet that comes in from the airport there, at the stream that comes in here, and then at another stream that comes in here along St. Nicholas Road. This yellow line here is a property boundary, right? So both parts of Greens Pond are privately owned in the town of Wappingers. We did receive permission from this property owner to work on his part of the lake. We did not receive permission from this property owner to work on his property, therefore we were not able to install any of the biochar system on this side, which included this inlet from this stream. This inlet, I believe, drains, has a drainage area of, I want to say somewhere around 1,200 acres. So it's actually a fairly large contribution coming in from that stream that we were not able to treat. However, we were able to get into this area and install a number of biochar socks, both in that suspended configuration and then as check dams across this inlet, this stream here, and then this culvert that comes in from the airport there. And then we did also we did install a number of biochar socks hanging from that old bridge by the outlet. The water there flows really fast. It's the spacing was really wide. Those had limited effectiveness, but nonetheless we did try. So again, you can see these drainage areas. The drainage area for the culvert here really goes across the airport. It's about 25 acres, give or take, and there's some mixed land use in there. This stream here on the property border has a much larger drainage area. That's really taking in about 4,500 acres of drainage. That watershed is rather large and rather large mixed use there. Moving into the results here, we can see the phosphorus change here was not as remarkable as it was in Wappinger Lake. The blue line again shows the phosphorus coming in from inlet 1, that's a small 25-acre area. The orangish line shows it from inlet 2, which is this stream here. And then at the outlet, which is the dam out here, is represented by this gray line. So it did show somewhat of a decrease. You can see here the results do diverge a little bit. I believe that this difference, where it looks like the outlet concentration is higher than the inlet concentrations, is due somewhat to the contribution from this untreated area here. And the nitrogen followed, similar pattern, shows a much larger drop-off. Nitrogen is a lot more susceptible to that dry weather flow that we had, again, very hot, very dry summer, so this couple of small rain events really did wash a lot of material into all the waterways, in the area, not just here. That's essentially the background of what was completed, what was there. Our opinion here is that the biochar here did, in this higher flow lake where there was more flow going through Greens Pond, seemed to have limited effectiveness, which has been documented in a number of other studies by others. In Wappinger Lake, where we're kind of in that little corner tucked in, seemed to be a little bit more effective there because the water's a little bit more still. There isn't as much flow going through that area. Moving forward, one of the recommendations that we made was for Greens Pond, they're in a tough spot. Again, it's privately owned. There's a lot of sediment. Towards August, when we were out there, I could pretty much walk in there with just muck boots and not sink in, right? The water was that low and there was very little flow going over that spillway. So they really have a sediment load issue there. In Wappingers Lake, and we've discussed this and you've seen other reports on this, we're kind of seeing the same thing. We can seemingly reduce the phosphorus in the water column with biochar, but you have such a nutrient load in the sediment that is going to keep coming back out and feeding this plant growth until that is treated. Well, one of the other recommendations that we made was for the village to consider somehow getting funding for the purchase of solar-powered aerators. So what that'll do is that'll introduce, they can look like fountains. You've probably seen them around. There are some tall ones that shoot, really good tall fountains. There are smaller ones that just kind of look like a small waterfall. There's another version, which is a bubbler that goes underwater, so it's just essentially a giant tube that air gets injected into, and it just bubbles bubbles air up through the water. So you kind of see almost like this, the water surface almost looks like it's at a low boil. It's kind of got that rolling effect. And all of that serves to do a couple of things. It'll move the water around, which will help to limit some of the algae and duckweed growth. And it will also introduce some more oxygen into that water, which should help at least start demineralizing some of the phosphorus and the nitrogen from the sediment where it's bound in. And that may have an effect, again, on that the amount of nutrient release there. Lori, did you have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, Kevin has been a part of the work that we've been doing, so he's more aware of what's going on. But my recommendation would be to form an ad hoc committee for the lake. So this way you have a couple key players for the trustees, the board of trustees, and possibly have, Raul and myself sit on the committee and a couple of people from the community. So this way they can discuss what are their concerns. The water chestnut is obviously a concern because that's really what makes that quag look. We want to keep the water moving. It becomes stagnant down the lake because of the, like you said, the inlets and the culverts. I would recommend possibly forming an ad hoc committee so we can then get some input from the community and we can then look towards our next funding of LWRP. This year LWRP was 90% with only a 10% contribution. Your previous one that had been set up by the previous mayor was 50-50 back in 2016. So now is the time where they're starting to try to look at water quality projects as well as recreation. That would be my recommendation. And then also I had another recommendation, since municipalities aren't allowed to receive donations, it's not permissible within the law from the state controllers, you may want to consider forming a Friends of Wappinger Lake or, some sort of Friends of account where it's a 501c3. So this way there are community members that want to help offset or contribute, they can do that through that fund, and then that can backfeed on some of the work that we're gonna be doing, maybe the 10% or offset, an aerator or solar power or what have you. So that would be my recommendation, but I don't think that we should just take this information and then just let it go, because this has obviously been an eyesore to much of the community for many years. I mean, it's a focal point. You're driving over the bridge and there's this beautiful lake that sits there that doesn't move. So, I know dredging is one of the things, but that's, far down the line. Let's look at how we can treat the nutrients and the vegetation that grows. The harvester is great, but that's not really solving the issue. So that's my recommendation. I'm not an engineer, but, it may behoove one of you to spearhead that, and I'll certainly help. Okay? So.
Thank you.
Thanks. So the pilot program is finished now?
Yes, sir.
Not the paperwork.
But the project that's it?
Yeah, everything's been removed, disposed of, final report's been given to Lori to file with the state to get
Okay.
the reimbursement, I guess it is.
Yep,
right,
I'm working on that
from
now.
DOS.
We have a treasurer. I'm working on it.
Hey, Raul, thank you very much for your company and you for the effort you put into this. Appreciate that.
Very welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Hopefully we can use the information that
Yeah.
Put you on our
we
committee.
will.
We have thousands of pages of information. You did a fine job. Just,
Thank you, Raul.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have an overview on the school bus patrol program, and LAJ Solutions, Lori Giava is going to update the board on that.
So I had given everybody a packet to follow along. For those that are in the audience, I apologize, and we might have a couple extras if you want them. So the bus patrol program, I'm sure you just saw it in the Poughkeepsie Journal this weekend, for those of you that were paying attention to the local news. Bus patrol program was an initiative that the county legislature put into place last year. It's in accordance with 1174A traffic law, V&T, and that is for people that pass a stop school bus with their flashers or their extended arms. So the county legislator had taken the initiative to impose that they were going to install software and cameras on buses for districts that would opt into the program at no cost to the district. They contracted with a vendor, and it's called Alert Now Bus Patrol Program. They have several names. Sometimes I get a little confused, but they have subsidiaries, their financial component versus their software hardware. It's fully staffed and it's fully manned. So Wappingers School District was one of the first ones to go live in our area, in the Southern Dutchess area. If you look on top of the buses, right over where the driver sits, you'll see a black dome that looks just like that. And they are recording once that arm goes out. So when the flashers go on, the recording starts. It doesn't start issuing citations, but it starts recording the cars. This is going to be a real eye-opener, what I'm about to tell you, because every day it's amazing to me. But it'll start recording when the arm goes out. Anybody that passes the bus, it will record many different views of your car. It'll be the license plate, it'll be the car, it'll be the way it passes, it'll be at what time it passes once the arms are extended. And there's 2 videos and 3 pictures. So every person that receives a citation in the mail, it would go to the registered owner. This is not a moving violation against the driver, because we don't really know who's driving the car. Anybody could borrow your car, or you could just be the registered owner, and it could be a husband or wife or what have you. So the cameras then start to record all the data. The data then goes to Bus Patrol Program, where they have technicians that look to see what, in fact, are the arms fully extended, were the flashers on, at what point did they pass. Our attorney can tell you that it's been a little interesting in the court, because now we've reached that point where people are contesting the tickets. So we've gone into contestation mode for the last couple of months. In this packet, you will see, first for starters, that the school districts that are in and the school districts that haven't gone in yet in contract. Beacon is fully in now. They just are finishing up their software. So what happens is they have a time period, and it's a phase where it's just a warning. So for us last year, it was February, and in March we went live. Once live happened, everybody started getting tickets issued to them. So Wappinger Central School District went live in March of last year. Beacon is now going into their trial phase. Weebatuck is just signed on, and Spack and Kill is going to do their final signing soon. That's the first page. So that'll give you the school district, so if any of the trustees want to know. The second page is a real eye-opener, and I can make copies for anybody who would want this. Out of all the municipalities in Dutchess County, and Rhinebeck, let me just tell you, is the only one that has opted out of it. The bus patrol program asked me to reach out to Rhinebeck. I did a while back in the wintertime. I said, are you considering joining? And they said no. They didn't feel that it was, their government didn't want to use technology to punish, violators of the 1174A. Purely within their purview, but Rhinebeck is the only one that's not on board. Out of all of the municipalities in Dutchess County, Village of Wappingers Falls, which has just a small portion of Route 9, holds the most tickets so far. We now have, as of October 31st, because today's November 30th, we won't get these numbers for another week, we had 1,325 citations issued. The town of Poughkeepsie, which is so much bigger than us and the largest town, has 1,298. I think I put them on the side for you guys so you can see them. The town of Wappinger, which is a lot bigger than us and a lot more miles of Route 9, only has 876. And LaGrange would be following that, 787. So the Village of Wappingers Falls is seeing the highest level of these citations being mailed to people's homes. It is pretty amazing. Jennifer, Trustee Niznik has come in to see the camera. And, people do contest it, people do come in, but really the evidence speaks for itself. So they're entitled to a hearing or to a trial, and we can set it for a trial, but the judge looks at the same evidence we do. So in most cases, most people get the fines. The first fine is $250. It goes to their home, to the registered owner, and in most cases, everybody pays it. We only have a 6% contestation rate. So out of every 100 tickets, 6 people say, I want to contest that. And then they usually don't even show up for the hearing that we set. Usually we're still waiting for half of the people that say they're coming. To date, so far, I just copied some of the credit memos so you see that we've gotten transfers into our banking account. How it works is the $250 fine goes to the person, 10% goes to the municipality for our work and our involvement. So we get 10% of it, which is $25 per citation. However, if you're a repeat offender, the second fine to your registered car owner is $275. The third is $300. The only saving grace is it's not a moving violation, so you don't get points on your license. But
It's not a moving violation.
because we can't determine the driver,
Oh,
it's an automated technology issuing like Easy Pass.
the camera doesn't get a facial
Yeah, but
recognition.
it's like a red light. So you go through the red light, they mail it to
Oh,
your
wow.
house, but they can't really mail it to you personally. So that's the saving grace, I guess, if there's an upside to it, which really, to me, the fine itself is $250 is what McGill would suggest anyways, if it was a regular moving violation that a cop had issued to you, a police officer. So the fine stays within the same as if you were just pulled over by a police officer. You just don't get points. So we get 10%. The rest of the money is split between county, because it was a county initiative, and the bus patrol program to pay their payroll for their staff and their support staff, their technicians, all the software, and then about 40% goes to the county. So the county is really taking the bulk of the citations. The credit memos I gave for the trustees so they could see that the money has been. I've tried to confirm this with our new treasurer just to make sure that all the wires have been received because I had set up the wire account for it to go in. But our treasurer still has not received access to those accounts. So we're working on that with the bank. If you go right after the credit memos, you're going to see the citations breaking down by month. It's a breakdown for March, April, May. It looks like this. To date, we've received $17,028.43. That's what the village has received so far. This is a program that nearly went to the wayside. So I just, not that we want to capitalize on anybody else's mistakes, but to be honest with you, this is about safety of children.
Well, that's okay.
So, I have a little room to feel that. I don't.
I'm stunned as one of the smallest municipalities. We
hold the
have
largest. We hold 22% of the tickets in the county.
I think it's because we're so condensed.
Well,
And I will tell you, I told you earlier, I almost got hit by a car today.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up tonight.
I almost
can
got
see.
hit by a car today. I was at the bus stop getting my granddaughter. The bus stop, lights fully flashing, stop signs out. I go to start crossing the street. Someone just blew right past me.
Well, the
School
biggest,
bus driver
Yeah.
beeping her horn, and I was kind of stunned. So it is truly about, even though I'd like to see the county come up with, maybe divvy up some more percentage, only because I've seen how much it takes to get this all accomplished from what you guys do here. So I really wish that would happen, but ultimately it is about the safety and.
it is, and that's my biggest thing, when people come in and they contest it, unless the arms aren't fully extended or the bus isn't to a complete stop, then you can understand. The chief complaint most people say is, well, it's a divided highway. Well, no, it's not a divided highway, it only has a median, and that has nothing to do with New York state law.
So,
John?
if I may ask you a couple of quick questions?
Sure.
The 1325, is that the number of observed violations or the number of tickets, or are they the same?
Those are the ones that have been issued violations. So there's considerably more of them, but the technicians go through them.
So there may have been 1,500 or 22,000.
I
They
could
have
probably
said
give
this
you
one was
that number.
questionable, and that's the actual violation.
Yeah, I could give you the number of that because we have access to that in the back office.
Oh, sure.
But that's issued violations. There are people, like say you happen to get one, you call up and you say, oh, well, I watched the video and that wasn't my car, or, it could be a couple things, or the arms weren't fully extended. The only thing right now that Bus Patrol is taking into consideration is they're doing test runs in open parking lots, which is what they were doing a few weeks ago, where they're taking buses, stopping the bus, having somebody drive 50 miles an hour, and seeing really realistically how long does it take them to stop without either getting rear-ended or what have you. Because most of the tickets are happening on, well, you'd be surprised, people do pass the bus on the same side of Route 9, but most of them are really coming the other way. Or somebody tries to stop and the person behind them is not aware of the law, or they're not paying attention.
If I can just ask another
Sure.
question. Is there any way of finding out where most of I'm assuming
Oh, I
most of
know.
these are on Route 9 and maybe 9D comes second.
Now,
Nine.
really truthfully, they're Route 9. It's the 1500 block, which is your Wendless Terrace area. So it's your Planet Wings, your Wendless Terrace. There's been a couple McDonald's. A lot of people have come in and they're saying, oh, this isn't a residential area. Well, that doesn't matter. It's a bus stop. And I'm sure Mrs. Rogers can attest to that. We do school to work program at Wappingers. If you have a child that's working at McDonald's or Hannaford, the bus is letting them off. It doesn't matter whether it's residential or not. Those arms come out on a bus, you stop your car. So that's really where they are. Most of them are right around that Route 9. We have the smallest portion of Route 9 and we have the highest violations. That's not to say I haven't seen some on West Main, because I have.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The money, is there any requirement, like are the funds earmarked? Can we
That's
only
where I
use
was
them
going
for
to
certain
talk. That's what I was
things?
going to talk about. So right now, the money's not earmarked, and that's why I really wanted to present to the board now, because it's been almost 6 months. You talked about pedestrian, doing more for pedestrians, whether it was your flags or your crosswalks or your this or that. There's a couple things that the board has talked about that they wanted to do to improve pedestrian walkways or to improve stuff. It might be something you want to consider. Really, we don't have any particular things earmarked in the village because it's really general fund is where it comes to.
But this goes to general fund?
Yeah, so-
Okay, thank you.
So as we track it, I just want you guys to keep in mind the things that you say that we might need and we haven't been able to find funding for. Well,
I was wondering about park cameras.
yeah, well, we're working on that.
Right, if
And
that doesn't,
And that's the other thing I want to talk to the board about. Eventually I don't want to belabor this tonight because you guys get in and out, but I definitely want to talk to you about the Bain Park down the road. We talk about the extra money that we were able to recapture from the county. So we have additional money, and I would like to talk to you about that with security for your parks. So this is it in a nutshell. The last piece of paper that I included was just the bus patrol citation that we created in the court. So when it does come in, and whether the village attorney is there or myself, we have it, and then it gets attached to each summons and citation. So if it does go before the judge, then we have our notes, and then we create what you call almost like a parking ticket in the court software. And then if it goes to the judge and the judge finds you guilty, then we have a process within the court then to, actually at that point, we collect the whole $250. but then we send it to Albany for our court. So I never really got into the details of the finances of that, but we do end up collecting all the money if the judge finds them guilty. So, any questions?
Just the percentage is 60, 30, 10.
It's really 10% to us, and then the rest of it gets split 60-40. So if you have a calculator, it would be the 90% then the 60-40. So it's almost it's pretty much 50-40, but it's the 90% that's left of ours. It gets divvied up that way.
Okay, thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
All right, Board, next on the agenda is approval of Sarah's Mediterranean Grill International Grease Trap. I just spoke with Todd Atkinson a few minutes ago, or just before the meeting, and the applicant failed to submit the paperwork to him for his review. He's recommending table this to December 14th.
Yeah, can I just ask one question while we're discussing it? Is the applicant here?
I don't know.
Is the applicant here?
No, doesn't look like it.
Okay, well, I don't know who the folks are, so I'm curious how any business gets to the point where they've created their business, without having these approvals. Like their store is built out and this approval hasn't been done.
Really?
Well, I mean, from what I can tell, I'm not saying that the grease trap has been installed, but the investment has gone quite a way. The construction has gone quite a way, and the business is not approved. So I'm just
Because they
curious.
don't have the grease trap.
No, I understand that, but why are we permitting? Why does the municipality permit businesses to invest any amount of money into a rental unit or a unit they own for the purpose of a business that is yet to be approved and the function is yet to be allowed? Because this, as I see it, is perhaps a self-imposed hardship that I know doesn't give us, we are not obliged to make an amendment to our requirements because of a self-imposed hardship. But it doesn't seem right when we know that something is not happening properly and the steps aren't being done and we're not setting these people up for success, because now we're in a difficult situation. The person, this is a difference between, tens of thousands, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to run a grease trap outside where this person would like to have their business, and they may have put $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 into the storefront, and we may never be able to allow them to see it to fruition. Does that make sense? I mean, maybe it's a rhetorical question. Maybe it's something that people aren't feeling like we need to consider. But what I'm saying is, we've seen it time and time again. This is like the fifth. I remember being on the planning board, and there was a business in the parcel that is it has the halal market. It used to have the. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. It used to have the not the Goodwill, but the other one.
Over by the Home Depot?
Buffet.
Salvation Army.
No, the Salvation Army. There was a plaza in there, and I think Mike Ruffin and I were on the planning board at the time, and they were trying to put a juice bar in. I'm just saying this from a small business standpoint, from my own experience as a small business owner. By the time you're getting ready to open, you could have put $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 into a storefront. We didn't stop doing. They built the whole store out, and they're not even approved. So maybe the board needs to start looking into some sort of protocol that's set up that when a landlord commits to a tenant, that we are notified, and then we need to kind of Because I just can't imagine telling somebody right now you can't do the grease trap, the interior grease trap, and you've put $60,000 or $80,000 into the storefront and tough because you don't have another another $50,000 to put it in. You know what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying?
I see, but I think when someone is going into a business, they know what kind of grease trap they need.
Well, the point isn't even the grease trap because there's all the things. They weren't approved for anything. You know, like they haven't been approved. Their use hasn't even been approved. But you could say they know. They might not know because we follow the antiquated 1984 or 1986 grease trap law that most municipalities, if you look in every direction, do not follow. So they might not know that. But either way, the point is we know these businesses, or we should know, these businesses are being built out. There's one that was just built out on West Main Street that is ready to go, that has never been before anyone, that has had nothing done to it, or no oversight. And these things I feel like can put the planning board and the village board in a difficult position where we feel like we need to capitulate because it seems inhumane not to.
Is that a flaw?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, but is that a flaw of the planning board or the building department?
I don't know. I'm not pointing or accusing
No,
anyone
I'm
of
just
anything.
saying.
I don't think it's I don't think the planning board. I don't know. Mike might have an opinion on this because he sat on the planning board. I don't know if it has anything to do with the planning board if you haven't gone before the planning board. But when there's things being, so I don't know. That's why I'm thinking maybe the landlords, when they contract with a tenant, should have to notify the village as to what their tenant's intended use is, so that we can put in place some sort of process to not only educate the person, but maybe some of the things that, for example, I know Brian is a very competent person who knows what is permit required and what is not permit required. And you could conceivably build out, if you rent the right space that has already been outfitted for a similar use, you could conceivably be able to build out that restaurant or that space and not need permits under our current code. However, because that space had laid dormant for a year, they won't have, in this case, a grease trap requirement, because where they'd like to move in was BX Bagel. That BX Bagel didn't require, for some reason, the certain grease trap requirement. Why, I don't know, but it didn't. So now these people go in good faith and they buy it. It gets built out. No one says anything. And now what do we do? Mike, am I making any sense at all? Or?
Yeah, we should. Do you want to have a
I don't know how you do it though.
committee meeting about that? I mean, it is a good question. How do you do that? And you're going to get a lot of different answers. And when we were on the planning board, you talked to Tom and Bonnie, and we had the same debate then as we do now. This issue isn't going away. It seems to be only getting worse. I agree with you that it happens, and it's continuing to happen. Is it the due diligence of the person who's going to build to check the codes? Can we make it easier? What's the problem that we can address? I don't know that answer either, Adam.
Because I know that for example, I believe our code enforcement officer had very candid conversations with the folks, as it was described to me, and was told, process isn't being done properly. You're going to have a grease trap issue. And I don't doubt Brian for 1 minute that he had those conversations. But there should be a mechanism in there that allows him or allows somebody to stop the build out.
I'm with you because we want to attract more businesses to the village and we don't want to have people looking to invest in the village having these issues.
And then being told, well, you
Yeah,
make
you can't
everything
do it.
difficult.
Right.
And then being told, well, these guys make everything difficult, when really we're just trying to do things legally. So it's just something to consider since we're at a
Well,
workshop.
Just a comment on that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going in the right direction, but do you have any type of a pre-meeting? And I'm just telling you, I recently am doing something in another municipality. So before I got started on my project, I had to have a pre-meeting with their planning board.
Right.
Where I went in and they told me what was expected. Told me what could be allowed, what couldn't be allowed, very informal, just, I'm sitting there with my pen and my piece of paper. They told me all the information that if I wanted to go forward with something like this is exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
And so I knew. So-
Right, I think
So
that-
for me to go put $50,000-$60,000 into something without getting that information first would have been on me if I.
No, I agree, and I agree, and I think two things. I think your project, it could be wrong. You're like breaking ground, right?
No, not.
Oh no, okay.
Some of
And
it.
the other thing is, you're also a board member in a village, so you are a little more savvy, probably,
So maybe
and you
it's-
know what to do.
Maybe it's to educate the landlord or the owner of the
That's what I'm
property
asking.
to turn around and suggest to the person that's coming in with the type of business or whatever they want to get started, why don't you ask for a pre-meeting?
Right. And I also think to file with the village so we can say you need to, because you can suggest to somebody. Your point is well taken, but you could suggest.
I could have just asked to be on the agenda
Right.
and got myself a place on there and walked in with an engineer with all my plans, and they could have said, and spent a ton of money on him in the meantime, and they could have said, nope, 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 nope. So that's why I requested the pre-meeting, so that we sat down and they said, this is what you can expect when you come to the meeting.
Yeah, I did the
So
same
I'll be
thing
much
before.
more prepared when I
Right.
get there next month.
I did the same thing before I purchased the property to put my existing village business in. I had a meeting before I even closed on the property because I didn't want to buy a property and then be told I couldn't do it. But I'm just saying, like, really this is the ultimate thing. If we don't get a handle on it, I worry that in the end, the planning board, because I've seen it happen before on other projects that are happening in the village, or this village board will feel like that the right thing to do is to bend in spite of it being the wrong thing to do, because it seems inconceivable to force someone to take that financial hit because they didn't ask the right question or they didn't do the pre-meeting. So if we could require the landlord to have to file something, and then our board or someone, whether it be the chairman or Brian or someone here, then contacts them and says, this is what you need to do. We suggest you do it before you start doing anything else, because you might find out you can't do it. That's all. It's something to consider. And your ideas are perfectly great.
I think just the easiest, well, to me, there might be other ways, but the easiest way to do it is just to educate those landlords that are renting to people, to get people down here for those meetings.
How do they know to have a pre-meeting?
How do who know?
Anybody that wants to apply for
Well, I would, well,
business or
if you're going into business, one would want to think that that's the smart thing to do. But even if the landlord, if we could get the message to the landlords to say, listen, I know you got a new tenant coming in here, you should, whatever he's got going on, maybe make a meeting up with Brian, come down.
Just
saying they may be naive or new to this
Right.
too. How would you know?
so you know, there are property owners right now in the village that have issued leases and collected month after month after month of rent, and those buildings and those businesses do not have certificate of occupancy because they haven't. The landlords did not complete their site plan, and they will not get COs. And those people, and I know that's maybe
That's
not.
unfortunate,
But some of this is our responsibility to protect the community from almost predatory landlording.
Well, I agree with what has been said, but it's also part of the obligation. If you're gonna open a business, you're expected to do your due diligence.
I agree.
Maybe we need to provide them a method, a checklist. Have you considered this, that, and the other thing that you can give to them and say, do this?
But we have to know how to give them, that's the point.
I agree.
We have to know who to give it to.
I agree entirely. But if somebody's gonna spend $60,000, then that's on them.
I guess the thing is, if you haven't ever done it before, you know, it sounds crazy, but those of us who have, I'm sure Jen can attest to, you do something, you go all along, you're rocking and you're rolling, and then all of a sudden, you're like, holy I didn't even know to not. And so that's all.
And I do see that, and if there's any way we can help people, I would be more than willing to go for anything. But with all that being said, being a business owner and starting my business when I was very young, I was very cheap. And,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, I wasn't spending a dime on anything I didn't have to, so.
I get it.
There's different ways of looking at it, but bottom line is anything we can do to help, I would have no objection to doing it.
All right, thank you.
All right, can I have a motion to table this
I'll make
to,
that motion. Table.
to December 14th?
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded that?
Mike.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye.
Carried. When we did the Route 9 sewer project up on Route 9, we had a company there, Auto Trends. We had to go into Auto Trends paved area that they had striped, dug it up, we re-blacktopped it, but we never restriped it. Attorney Wallace,
Yeah, I would recommend that we take this and the next discussion into executive session. Since it involves the contract, I understand that the contact representatives are here as well.
okay, so we're gonna table the, to Executive Auto Trends paved area and the contact voucher number 2. Mayor, did you want to talk about the Cobbler building?
Only to the extent that the building inspector has issued 6 or 7, it might be 8 items that need to be done before we will get a CO. So I think the board should consider getting a price for these items and then see if we can afford to do them. I don't think a lot of them are big items, but see what it's gonna cost, and then, because the building sits there unoccupied,
It's insane.
and let's complete it, there's been work done on it, and so, let's get the items that need to be done, and then we can, shoot for a CO and shoot to rent it out.
Mayor, do you know how
Or
much
lease it
we
out.
have invested in that building so far? Or do you, Mr. Card?
Yeah,
Can you share?
I've probably spent 30,000. Between
30K.
the roof, the AC, HVAC, plumber, sheet rock work, pointing up the bricks on the outside, completely doing the restroom.
And then we bought the property too, or whatever, but
Well,
that's just the, and we
well,
just,
it was bought for the park and the park.
no, I understand, but that had a value when you bought it.
That was a couple $100,000 there, so you probably got $250,000 into the project overall.
And we still can't even put it.
Well, I thought it was okay, but as the project manager for a while, I thought it was complete. Brian went in and he didn't say the floor was a couple inches too low from the new door I had put on for the ADA access, so the floor was an issue. The restroom wasn't up to code, wasn't rebuilt the way that it should have been. And the restroom's about the size of this desk. Not a whole lot of room there to do more than that. There's a broken window. He didn't like the saddle on the door way that I had put in for the 36-inch wide. The contractor left a little saddle there because he was afraid that when it rained, water would just run right into the building. So he left a little saddle. And Brian didn't care for that either.
Okay.
So if I'm reading the mayor correctly, is I can go to Brian and get a list of the things that he pointed out, and then we could chip away at it? Is that
That's the idea.
Okay. All right. I can do that. And I can have that for the 14th.
It's like any project. Chipping away at a big stone, just like Alcatraz. They used to.
Okay, we can chip away at the boathouse too, Mayor, that's
Right.
yours.
Well, this item, we have a 3-season CO. And we know we can't get a 4-season until we get a new roof on it and use the heating and the air conditioning. So, but we do have an area in there for a little kitchenette. And so there was discussion about doing something for a kitchenette, and we do have some leftover cabinets from an office at Village Hall that could be utilized down in the kitchenette area at the boathouse. And we might have an offer from Trustee Lauricella's better half, because she is a designer, to conceivably come up with some kind of design.
Just on a volunteer basis, no
Right.
no funds or anything like that, to be clear. She's on the rec committee, she volunteers her time, it would be strictly volunteer.
So is there like a time frame or something on that, Mayor?
Well, I think, first of all, would the board be in agreement for some work being done at the boathouse in the kitchen area, or the proposed kitchen area?
I would agree to do this, and I also would agree to check with our village engineer, and let's try to finish this thing off. I mean, it's just sitting down there. You have investment plumbing in there for heat and AC. Let's see how much it costs for a new roof with insulation on it, so we can utilize this as a senior center or camp when it rains.
I believe the engineer did
We have a roof quote.
yeah, roof quote that was significantly more palatable than the ones that people were throwing at us, right?
We're coupling that with a roof quote from Azir to see if we can get historical.
Okay, because I think this, I mean, we've talked about this, we kicked this around a couple hundred times already for the last 2 years. And, you know, we really can't blame anybody but ourselves now, because it just sits there. We need to do something as a board, not the old board, no matter how much it costs, nobody cares anymore. We need to make it work. So I think it's a start to do the kitchen, and let's see if we can find some money or save some money and put a new roof on this thing with insulation and get it going.
And I will agree with that entirely. Let's start the kitchen. We have to work, as the mayor said, it's a big rock. We got to chip on it as we go. But in the meantime, we have public groups, nonprofits that are looking for places that could use it during the 3-season CO, even if we don't get the roof on. So we need to start moving forward with that and establishing the rental rates and everything else we need to, so that we can actually get some use out of that facility.
You know, actually, while you mentioned that, Lori, would you be able to find out? I know that attached to the grant money was the stipulation that we could, in renting that facility, it could only be a nominal fee. And we're having trouble understanding what nominal means.
So that was the county's funding, because there was split funding that came for that project. That was state and county, and the county was the one that had the restrictions on it.
So is there a way to find out, like, a clear...
So you know what parameters you have.
Yeah. You know, because if a nominal fee is $30,
Right.
then we're talking about
I think
something.
it's a little bit more.
Okay.
Wouldn't it come into play also all the repairs that need, all the money that's gonna need to go into, in the future into it, that, for a fee as well?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll get the contract from the county.
Yeah.
I can send you each a copy of it that I have gotten from the county, and then you'll see what the parameters are. Then what happens is, once we submit for final reimbursements of the projects, then there may be leftover money. So we won't, now that Dora has gotten her hands into what I need, we'll know that more. Her and I are working on that.
Okay.
And then we'll see if there's extra money to try to help offset the cost of the roof. That's what Todd and I are working on. So I'll keep you all posted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So before we move to the next item, so can I have the board's permission
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
for some design work for the kitchen at the boathouse?
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
So,
I will second it.
so we have the deputy mayor doing the motion, and we have trustee Chilicek doing the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Thank you.
All right, Mayor, the next item is a light at the convent crosswalk.
So, I had a meeting with DOT, figured maybe I could get two birds with one stone if someone would meet us for I got some phone calls, let's preface this, I got some phone calls from some constituents in the area wanting to know if they could have a blinking crosswalk like is in the central business district, where they hit the button on the electric and the lights come on, so that then they can walk in the crosswalk. So I contacted the DOT, and we had a meeting, and to the extent of the meeting, it's a preliminary meeting because there's some cost involved, but there's newer technology out. They might be able to be run on solar. So I believe we're gonna have some more information at the December meeting, December 14th, on this crosswalk. Because people wanna have a little bit more protection. It's not so bad at that crosswalk. It's not so bad if you're coming south, but when you're going north and you go around the bend, it's bad because that crosswalk comes up on you, and people could be in the crosswalk because for one reason or another, mostly all during the year, they park on Convent Avenue, and so I think all of those people live on the other side of the street. So you got 5 or 6 cars, you got those people, you got some other people who want to go to the deli at the gas station. So there's some interest there. So that's why I contacted the DOT, and they're gonna get back with us. So
Are you having any more meetings, Mayor, on this? With them?
I think she's gonna propose somewhere around, before December 14th.
Okay, because what I'm trying to get at is that's a dangerous crosswalk, one there. And there are,
And the gist of it was for pedestrian safety.
yes, correct. And there are, I want to say, including that one, I think there's 4 or 5 others that don't have signs on them on 9D itself. The majority of them are on South Avenue now. And, I mean, there was a poor gentleman just a few months ago, got hit by a car by Garner's Firehouse. So, and there's one on West Street, there were 2 people that got hit by a car in a
And that
crosswalk.
person eventually died. The one person, I believe.
The one on South Avenue did,
Yes.
yes. And there was 2 people on on West Main and West Street that got hit by a car.
That one is bad.
That one was bad. And
But that intersection is bad.
yeah, the lighting's bad in that area. And there's a couple more down this way by Carmine Drive, by Valero. So if they're willing to put lights in front of that, in front on Convent Avenue, we do have some other safety issues on their main drag.
Well, let's see what the.
That one is ours. That's our responsibility because that is a village road, not a state road.
I'm gonna read.
So we can look into that.
East Main is the village.
East Main is the village road, going out to Route 9.
It runs into the state at the.
Yeah, 'cause that's bad trying to cross there.
Yeah, so we can look into purchasing something like that.
Well, let's see what they come up with for one, if indeed we're going solar on this, and then see what the costs are, and then we can highlight how many we'd like to get done.
All right, but I would like to see them pay for the ones on their own road.
Well,
You know, I'm not saying that one isn't dangerous, but they're all dangerous. And that one particularly is dangerous because it's on a curve. I think the crosswalk it shouldn't have been in that,
well,
it should have been moved up more towards the gas station on the straightaway. That was a poor design when they did that one. I mean, I get it there because it was a school right there, and I understand, but
so I give the board the attention that we're talking about this item.
okay.
And others now.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with you on this one. Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
next on the agenda is an update on the camera on Hillside Tank. Mayor,
So, I've written a little letter, and some people have already received it up on Hillside, and to the extent, does every board member have a copy of this?
yeah, put it on you, in front of you. Please.
Thank you.
So the letter is, residents, I am pleased to announce that the water tank on Hillside Avenue / Walker Place camera issue has been resolved. Mr. Turbish of Wappinger Falls Hydroelectric has repositioned the cameras where he gains 100% security for his building, and there is no invasive viewing on the side streets. I have spent over 40 hours on this issue with 8 visits and over 15 phone conversations with Mr. Turbish. I would also like to thank trustees Nizdik and Huber for their input as they visited with Mr. Turbish twice at his facility. This resolution should more than satisfy FERC regulations, FERC meaning the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regulations, and more than satisfy the neighbors' concerns. So, the cameras have been repositioned, and in such a way that he gains 100% of the security in the other areas and no invasive action on side streets. So that issue should be put to bed right now. If it needs to be modified, which I can't see how it would ever need to be modified, well, when spring comes and the Christmas star comes down, it can be modified. And I would also suggest that since trustees Niznik and Huber visited Mr. Turbish, maybe you would want to pay a visit to him to see the new repositioning of what can or can't be seen.
Well, he has emailed me the pictures
Okay.
of the cameras, and I've taken it to a couple residents up there, not all of them, and I showed them what they can see now, and they're satisfied. They didn't really say anything like they can still see my house or anything. They're satisfied. It's basically the cameras is just supposed to be positioned onto the penstock and by the Divine Bar to look at that. Then he has one by the Divine Bar, and that one looks at the penstock going across the creek itself on that penstock. So he can always watch his pipe. So no one, I mean, I can't say all of them, but there's a few of them up there don't have any complaints about it right now.
Okay. Generally, when a vacancy is created by somebody leaving either an elected or an appointed position, their emails and their phone calls are directed to somebody. I generally get them when there's a
I think you
vacancy.
skipped over one item, clerk.
Oh,
Personnel committee.
all right. Well, let me finish while I'm on this.
Okay, fine.
So generally, those phone calls and emails can be sent to someone so that action be taken before or during the period of time that the vacancy exists. There will be a vacancy in the Highway Department superintendent effective Monday. So who would the board like to have those emails and phone calls sent to?
I would go to the foreman as of right now,
Foreman.
Tommy.
Okay, I'm not sure he's set up for that, but if the board wants me to, I can get Craig Roberts to hook him up.
Could you do that for now?
Is that something you could take on, John? No?
I think somebody in that department should.
Well, I don't know.
I
I think I could, but
My only thought is if it needs to be somebody this is my only concern, or my question about how it will be handled. If something comes in, when you were handling, like, say, the treasurer and personnel and stuff, that's very much more in your wheelhouse. But if something comes in that needs some sort of highway or, like, professional response in the sense of, like, needing to know the knowledge of some sort of highway thing that you might not know, because
well, it's not,
what then would happen?
well, when I covered for Mayor Alexander when he resigned for
Yeah.
a while, it's not that it would fall on me. I would be the one to direct that person to who would be able to answer.
Right. Well, my question is, so typically, who would you direct it to? That was actually going to be my
Well,
question.
depending on the call. I mean, if it was something that had to do with engineering, I probably would direct it to Todd. If it had something to do with the day-to-day operations, like I get a lot of calls already
Gotcha.
for those, I would send them to Tom.
Okay. That was really my question. Like, who would it go to? It wouldn't go to, like,
I
the
mean-
highway committee. Wouldn't be,
No,
that's
no.
I know that Pat's not going to want to figure out how to.
Kevin and I covered for the vacancy of Mayor Alexander. Kevin and I would meet and we'd sit down and figure out who would be best to respond to different things.
Okay, cool.
I think that,
But if Tom, on the other hand, if you give it to Tom and Tom gets those calls, he would probably only end up calling me anyway. So, it doesn't matter to me. I've done it right along for other vacancies. Or if you feel you'd rather have Tom get all those calls, he's a pretty busy guy, I gotta tell you.
He can answer a few emails during the day. I mean, Trustee Sadati got a hold of me a couple days ago. He was basically looking, maybe for the board's permission, I don't want to speak on his half, but he was looking to do, is maybe give Tom, a half hour, an hour more a day to answer some of these emails if we can go that route. This way, it's like Pete never really left.
I thought the hour, not to be argumentative, but I thought the hour was to plan. He told me he thought we should give him an extra hour, and it was to, plan the work and plan the jobs. And
Plan the work and plan the
mention
job,
it.
and there's stuff that comes in. I mean, the phone does ring, Pete does get emails, and
Yeah.
But
I can have,
Hold on a second. So
Yeah.
we've now gone from one issue to two issues, and we're going to wind up going.
I'm not looking to make a vote on that. This is a conversation
Yeah.
we've had during the week. So that's why I said, I think we ought to have Tom in charge of all this stuff down here. He is the foreman. But, we made him a foreman, and when Pete's not around, Tommy's in charge of the guys. So now I think you're taking something away from him. If you want to maybe we should sit down and have a talk with him and see if he wants to do this. If he doesn't, then fine. But if, we shouldn't take something away. We have trust in this gentleman. We should trust him into doing this job. He's stepping up to the job.
Well, whatever you decide, I can call the IT guy and I can have him set up with a .gov account.
And just for, time being, that's how, that's how I feel.
Could we possibly have it going to both John and this gentleman?
Well, that starts to get, I think, complicated, because then,
Well,
we do this all the time. 3 trustees are working on the same thing and no one
Right.
knows it.
But you gotta go to 2 people, and I would just suggest, in that case, you can say, I got this one, you take that one.
Okay, so let's, is there any objection to having the highway foreman take the phone calls and emails for the highway superintendent
Well,
during his vacancy?
I think the phone calls are fine. I don't think the emails should. I think that's some sort of minutia that is not something Tommy needs to.
So he should take the phone.
Because he's also in the field. I mean,
So he'll take the phone calls and the emails will go into a highway superintendent, account that will then be wired to the clerk. Is that what you want?
I disagree.
well, I think that makes sense. What do you?
I disagree. Again, we made this gentleman a foreman. It's no different than making a lieutenant a ship's or a police commissioner while the commissioner stepped down. We put our trust into him, but now we're not putting our trust in him.
I don't think this has anything to do with trusting Mr. Polakowski. I trust him completely. What we're talking about is Tom is in the field doing boots on the ground work. He's not available the bulk of his day to look at emails. Mr. Carr just sitting in front of a computer most of the day, and a lot of these, as was Mr. Podgy, it has nothing to do with not trusting Tom. It's like they will be disseminated on who should be getting the information.
I think he should get the information firsthand.
I don't agree. That's my opinion. I would, but
Well, why don't you just let me hook him up? I'll hook him up. If he becomes overwhelmed, you'll check on him every day, I guess.
No,
I don't think that. No, that's the point. No, we're not checking on anyone. So that's why we shouldn't hook them up, and we shouldn't just let them do it. We should do something. You have been battle tested to answer other people's emails and get them to who the people. Does anyone on this side of the dais agree?
I was hoping John would take over
I have every trust in Tommy, but I think
Right.
he's taking on a lot more responsibility than he would normally have, which we're grateful for. So, and he is going to be in the field. John answers emails and phone calls all day long. I'm very extremely confident that they will get into the right hands once they reach John.
I mean, if he's telling me he's going to pawn it off.
Hold on a second. So 2 of the 3 trustees on the left side have weighed in. How about the middle trustee?
I would agree. I think that for the time being, they should go to John. I would have no objection if they were to go to both,
Okay,
so they would share the information.
So we'll try
And
that.
just to add to that, John, after a week or so, you're going to pretty much know. I mean, the scope. Did it happen once? Did it happen 3 times, 5 times? You know what I mean? Was it something that even had to get to him because it went to Kenny or it went to this one or that one? So you'll have a better grasp on it.
We should reach
That's the
out.
first thing I do is I look to see who's on copy or who it was sent to. A lot of the emails he's probably on copy of.
We should reach out and find out if he wants to be accepting emails.
But we'll know.
We don't have to now.
If we let him get wired to John in the next 10 days or so, we'll know when we come to the December board meeting how well
We
this
can
is
revisit.
working. Right, we can revisit.
And also, just to be clear, it's a top priority of the Highway Committee and Personnel Committee to get a replacement for the outgoing supervisor. So hopefully we won't be, a month in without a supervisor. This is hopefully a bridge. We tried to do this ahead of time. We tried to get out in front of it. We had some distractions that didn't allow us to, and we're all working together to find somebody. We're meeting tomorrow to outline, the newest submittals for, to all get on the same page and interview some more people. Hopefully we'll have somebody soon.
Yes, Alice.
That's what I was gonna ask about. Why is it taking so long?
Well, it's not
Yeah, well, this has been ongoing.
Well, we have a pool. Just like with the treasurer, it took us a long time to get a treasurer, and now I think every one of us, I shouldn't speak for,
The treasurer was
a lot of the
another-
people are very, I'm sorry?
The treasurer was another subject.
Yeah, that's fine, but I'm just giving you the answer. We waited, and now we have someone we like, and is fitting in well, and is a true
You
professional.
went through
So,
more than just someone you liked. You went through a couple of them.
okay, what I'm saying to you is that by doing, like everyone wants us to oversee and do things, you put in a lot of effort, and then hopefully you get someone that is capable. And I think we did that. So that's what we're trying to do here. We've interviewed several people. We have a stack of resumes. We're constantly getting them in email. And some people don't make the cut for an interview.
You have a stack of people that want this supervisor's job?
1 inch thick.
Yeah, correct. I can show you the newest pile if you want to see them. I mean, we're not sitting around doing nothing. We've interviewed a pile of them.
Right.
Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., several of the trustees and me and our engineer are going to sit through and say who of these will get an interview, and we'll interview them. I mean, we're doing a heavy lift on this, but we're not going to just put someone in because people want to have a figurehead there. We have to have someone that knows what to do. That's what we're doing. Just like, that's what we're tasked to do.
All right, we've kind of drifted a little bit away from this.
Okay, so clerk for now on the, since I see 3 and 1, 4, clerk for now, and we'll see how that pans out, at least until the board meeting.
I'm a nay for the record.
Okay,
Oh, is this a vote? We gonna vote?
informally,
Okay,
informally.
all right.
I vote aye.
So, we have 3 on this one side.
Yeah, I see it.
And we have Adam, and you
Okay.
have 4, and you have a nay.
And what do you vote?
I'll vote aye, because that was my original thought.
All right, 5-1. Okay, now, I'm sorry, I skipped over the other one.
Yeah.
Discussion to fill vacancy on the Personnel Committee. Mayor,
My recommendation here is that the vacancy that was created for reasons before, I think the person who held the seat should get the seat back. So that would be Trustee Niznik back on personnel.
I'll make the motion.
can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye.
Opposed? Carried. Welcome back.
Welcome, Colin. Where'd you go?
I actually didn't go anywhere.
As far as safety is concerned, several of the employees downstairs and upstairs think that we probably need a cleaning of the air vents, circulation system. About 6 weeks ago, I reached out to a contractor, and he went upstairs, and he came down. He said somebody was up there and took all the insulation off of the cooling ducts, and in the summer they sweat, and it could cause some moisture problems there.
Yes.
Maybe mold, didn't say mold, could be. And I said, okay, fine, give me an estimate. He never came back. So I went to Belfour. They've done work for us before. They sanitized for us during the COVID events. And he gave me a quote. I'm going to get one more, but he gave me a quote to do all the ducts on first and second floor. That's cleaning them completely. He told me how the process works, and I got a 7-page email from him how they do it. for, if they do it during the regular business hours, which is very hard to do because you have people working in the areas, is $8,750. If they do it after hours and weekends, it'll be $11,050.
I'd be for business hours.
Yeah, I agree too. Seems high to me, and I'm sorry that the first guy didn't give me some kind of a quote so I could have something to compare it to. I hired a firm to do the ones over at the American Legion Hall, so I'm gonna reach out to them tomorrow and see if they'll come out and do the same analysis, and I hope to have something for you around the 14th,
Awesome.
okay?
Okay,
That's that.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Mayor, did you want to open it up to the public?
Anybody want to say something?
Well, I think, Lori, if you could just take a second about the Climate Action Plan Initiative. I think we were approved for that. What exactly is that?
So CAPI is Climate Action Plan Initiative, which was a grant that was awarded during Mayor Matt Alexander's tenure. It's come around again, it's with the Hudson Valley Regional Council, and they recognize climate smart communities, which is what you were designated in 2016. So every time we do something that's climate smart, whether it's solar or like we've applied for a NYSERDA grant for electric charging stations down Mill Street, if we get them awarded, we earn extra points. So we want to maintain our climate smart communities because we're eligible for more money. Well, CAPI is a subsidiary of that. It's an association that we have to form a committee, and I spoke to Clerk Karch about this. We need at least 4 to 5 people on it. It would be great if we had at least 2 trustees, and then maybe 2 members from the community, where we go throughout the village. They look at our utility usage with Central Hudson. They look at, a lot of other factors, and we identify what kind of energy issues we have and climate action issues that we have. And once we identify them, that's the first part. Then the committee tries to formulate mitigation. How do we avoid a 100-year flood? What can we do to lower our energy usage? So this is something that is going to come into play in January, and it's a partnership with Dutchess County. So I don't know if you want to talk amongst yourselves and see maybe who 2 members want to serve on it. Clerk Karch said he would serve on it, and then 2 members from the community I would recommend. And that would carry over. I mean, we'll talk more about it as we get closer, but it's something to think about now because it is funded through the county.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else, Mayor? Board? Public? Did you want to entertain a motion to go into the executive session?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
It's too windy and yucky.